Yes, the music's playing. Bit of an awkward start there, but all is well. Well, it's early. Let's pull down the title card. Oh, that didn't work either. I wonder if I have mouse issues. What is going on here? Well, that's it. The music's done. The music's done, folks. You know, I think we're still in the party mood. What, I got still got the party hat on here.
That's right.
Folks, friends, lovers, thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir. It's Sunday night, and you are right where you ought to be. And I'm looking at the chat. Not as many people, and that means whatever you say in the chat is going to get even more attention than it usually does. I'm sure folks will file in as we go. Last week's Christmas episode, of our recent episodes, one of the most viewed episodes we had, but also the chat was just rocking. Just rocking. And that means a lot of you who had things to say, I didn't get to read them until after the show. This time, I will get to read everything, I am quite sure. Folks, thank you for joining us on this fine December 29th. 29th, 2 days to go until New Year's Eve. Two days to wrap up this fine, awesome year that we have had. I am so looking forward to doing the year in review, but that's not going to be tonight because the year isn't over yet. No, I have other things that I want to talk about. Christmas is in just 361 days. Okay, that doesn't make any sense.
Halloween is a lot less time.
That's true. Halloween is in just 306 days. You know, even when I don't announce it, I usually have that ready because somebody I know very well is very likely to ask about it. But the big thing, the big number, the big to-do is 2 days until New Year's Eve, 3 days until New Year's Day, that day in which you get the chance to start it all over again, and so do we. And more than that. But first, real quick, on this fine December 29th, this is the date in which Texas entered the Union. That's right, we got Texas from Mexico. You know, the whole Tex-Mex thing actually has a reason for it. Texas used to be part of Mexico, or at least most of Texas did. And this is the day in 1845. And, you know, I always like looking at the history because we tend to think the way things are now, that's kind of the status quo, the way things are. And no, we've had enormous history here. I mean, Hawaii didn't come into the Union until the 1940s. So 1845, Texas enters the Union. Very little to say, by the way, on this date. That's going to go real quick because I want to talk more about the new year coming up and how this year wraps up. But it is important to say happy birthday. Happy 52nd birthday to Jude Law. And if you're anything like us, if you have been watching holiday movies over the Christmas holiday, we'll talk about the one we watched last night, but another movie you could catch would be the film called The Holiday with Jude Law, who celebrates his 52nd birthday today. No, actually, I guess I want to talk about the movie from last night. I want to insert that right here. And the reason is the film The Holiday had all these great actors. You had Jude Law. You know, anybody with a British accent is just automatically a better actor than anybody in America, right? Kate Winslet, speaking of. But also Cameron Diaz, very good. But the premise of the film is four people. The fourth person in the film, Jack Black. I don't know, putting Jack Black up against Jude Law, that seems unfair, doesn't it? Doesn't seem like he might, kind of suffer by comparison. And it turns out, no, it was a great movie. And Jack Black did a great job in The Holiday, 2006. So we can certainly recommend that.
It's been a long time since I've seen this.
And the reason it's irresistible to bring it up is because last night we watched Dear Santa.
Aww, so
that sounds
heartwarming.
So sweet. Unless you've seen the previews and you know the premise of the film was a kid who happens to have dyslexia and writes a Dear Santa letter but addresses it to Dear Satan. The title role obviously played by Jack Black. There's even a twist there which I won't share with you. What did we think of Dear Santa?
It had its moments. It was kind of like It was a fairly considering everything, it was a fairly kid-friendly movie. It was very Jack Black doing kind of heartwarming kid stuff. I mean, you may have seen him in like School of Rock and some other movies where he was kind of endearing, and this time he was a little different, but kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it was that curious mix which you sometimes get with Jack Black, actually, like in School of Rock, where you're not sure, is this film targeted at kids or adults?
One never knows.
It's hard to say. He pulls it off. And a lot of the critics have said there's nothing good about this movie except Jack Black, because Jack Black is being Jack Black, and it's very entertaining. Probably an apt description. Everything else in the film was either very formulaic or kind of cringe. So is it worth seeing? I would say if you haven't seen The Holiday yet with Jack Black and Jude Law, see that one first. But no, Dear Santa, if you've run out of holiday movies to see, put it on your list. It's okay. It's kind of like, we saw Red 1 with Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, that was
Red 1 had more good acting in it. But even if it didn't, it's Dwayne Johnson, so it's always worth seeing. And Dear Santa was worth seeing because it's Jack Black. So, again, speaking of the holiday, happy birthday, Jude Law. The other birthday I've got here for today is Alison Brie, who has been on a lot of things lately, but we just know her as having been on the show Community, which we've recommended before. And I'm thinking maybe we need to rewatch that. I remember it was great fun, but it's been a while now.
Actually, that was really fun.
Yeah, that was a series on the cable stations, and Community is worth watching.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to do on this date. I told you I'd keep it short, and that's it. Just, boom,
Bye.
Texas is in the Union.
Bye now.
Jude Law's got his birthday, co-starred with Jack Black, who was in the film last night, too. And happy birthday, Alison Brie. That's it. I want to take a look at the chat real quick here.
Jim on Facebook says, have I been hanging out with Flash Gordon, Dale Arden, Amy? Yes.
I thought somebody would make the Aladdin Sane reference, because it's almost the David Bowie kind of...
Yeah, it's kind of like a Ziggy Stardust
lightning
sort of thing.
Yeah.
But no, this is actually... I did something kind of funny here's an idea for a present. So what I did was, there's this online store, you get these, clothing stores that pop up in your Facebook feed, and this one was called Oxknit. So OXKNIT, all one word. And they have just a whole bunch of all of these kind of 1970s, 80s knockoff styles. And it's kind of cool, actually. It's not the ugliest 1970s stuff or the ugliest 1980s stuff. They kind of pick and choose. So what I did was they sold for like $35. You could get a few items of clothing for $35 in a mystery box. So I got a mystery box for me and a mystery box for Robert. Well, they ended up blending them in, so we weren't sure what was male or female.
So you didn't know in advance what was going to be received.
Exactly. So it was a surprise for both of us for Christmas. So
very quirky clothing.
Yeah.
Should have worn one of mine tonight. Well, maybe next time.
Yes.
Actually, we need to talk about next time. But first, under shameless self-promotion, and what are we listening to this week? I went back to some of our New Year's Eve episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We had the episode at the beginning of 2023 called What You Gonna Do With All That Year?
All that year inside your trunk.
Yeah. That was fun. And then a year later, 2024 and beyond, your best year yet. So, folks, tell us in the chat, was 2024 your best year yet? It was good. It was good, but I don't know. 2021 was awfully good. Considering we weren't quite out of the pandemic yet, it was much better than I expected. I don't know. Maybe. When we do the year in review, we will answer that question. But I'm curious what you think. Was 2024 your best year yet? We also did an episode that I want to talk about. We did an episode called Recipes and Scripts. Now, that was not on 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Acer. That was on Life on Earth with Robert and Amy Acer, the ARC UK show on recipes and scripts. And we'll talk about that. There's also a quick link to a short on YouTube, those short clips under a minute. And this one is called, and this is from the Tim Ferriss show, Stop sleepwalking through life. This is from the Cyan Bannister episode. Somebody we hiked with yesterday will know that we mentioned that episode. Stop sleepwalking through life. Well, okay, but under Hot Topics for the week, the first link you're going to see under Hot Topics for this week, because I want you to click on this link. Here's why I want you to click on this link. The link is to a story on human progress called 1066 Good News Stories You Didn't Click On in 2024. Geez, what a clickbaity title. What do you mean I didn't click on them in 20? How do you know? You're not the boss of me.
Really?
Human progress. But, of course, it is a list of 1,066 good things that happened in 2024 that you probably didn't click on because you probably didn't even see them. How many times do you go to whoever you use for aggregating your news, whether it's Google News or some people just go to X and see what people are pushing around? How many times do you see the good news stories on New York Times? All these things are in the news, but they're small and they're not clickbait, they're not eye-catching. Well, there's 1,066 of them. I'm certainly not going to read them all, but they're in categories. So in the first category, farming AI robots and drones. New robot harvests cotton by plucking it like a lizard's tongue. AI spotting sick tulips to reduce disease in Dutch bulb fields. Drones and robots could replace some field workers. I think robots and machines have been replacing field workers for 100 years now.
Yes.
200 years. Go back to Eli Whitney and the cotton gin. Point is, it's all happening. All of this is happening. Everything in farming is getting better because of robots, because of mechanization, because of drones, because of AI. Well, that's just one category. That leads into food abundance, where AI is meaning cheaper food. Southern Brazil reaps record soy. A share of children facing severe food poverty falls in Nigeria. Okay, I'm not going to read them all. That's just to give you an idea. You go into genetic engineering. Genetic engineering, are they genetic engineering people? No. New coffee. Genetic map promises better brews. Yes, we need genetic engineering because we need more and better coffee.
Yes, get AI on the better coffee.
That category of genetic engineering, they have 24 stories in there. Pest control. Good news stories. Murder hornets. You heard about murder hornets in 2024?
No.
Murder hornets eradicated in the U.S., agriculture officials say.
Surprise, surprise.
Lab-grown produce has 7 good news stories for the year. The point is there are advances in all of these areas. I have linked to the list, so you can go through there, and you're certainly not going to click on all 1,066 either,
Ooh.
but anything that interests you.
This goes out to Jennifer. Britain is first country. Go up. Why are you scrolling?
Oh, Britain is first okay.
His first country in Europe to approve lab-grown meat.
There you go.
Yay!
There you go. And if you click on the link, it tells you British startup Meatly. Meatly. You know, it kind of reminds me of, Impossible Burger, and all these companies need clever names if it's not just kill a cow and eat it. British startup Meatly has received the green light from UK regulators for its lab-grown meat to be used in pet food, with plans to initially focus on dogs. I know some people are going to say, what do you mean dogs? They won't let humans eat it? See, they're still regulating. This is the first step. This is how you move in the direction of lab-grown meat for people. I love this. I absolutely love this. There are 1,066 stories like this. Now, you tell me in the chat, how many good news stories would you say you have clicked on this year? Just estimate. Have you clicked on 1 or 2 a month? So 24 over the course of a year? I know a lot of people for whom that would even be a high estimate. Well, there's a good reason for that, and I don't mean to pick on anybody. Good news doesn't require you to do anything. You don't have to guard against it. You don't have to protect against it. You don't have to buy insurance. You don't have to put extra locks on your door. You don't need to get prepared for this terrible thing that looms. Some of us are thinking we need to get prepared for say, the next presidential administration. And there are things we may do in our lives to protect ourselves against the kind of changes that we think might happen, whether it's in the stock market or the grocery market, or just with, unfortunately, our friends or family. Whereas good news, what do you have to do about good news? No, good news, you don't have to do anything other than pay attention, because it's going to affect your worldview if you think everything is bad news. So I was really glad to see this. And Human Progress never lets me down. They're associated with the Cato Center, but a separate organization. 1,066 good news stories, even though they had to give it the clever title of that you didn't click on in 2024. I'm sorry, Human Progress. I didn't mean not to click on them. You know, they put it that way to motivate you to take a look. Good stuff. Sorry, just catching up on the chat here. Mostly hellos, but that's okay.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Yeah. Yeah, so...
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. It's, good stuff. We're talking about lab-grown human legs. Delicious.
It's coming.
Not to eat, though.
It's coming. Well, it's a real question about cloning body parts.
Yes.
That's another thing that came up in conversation yesterday is how do stem cells, cells that haven't been differentiated themselves yet, because every cell has the same DNA. They all start out with the same DNA. How do they differentiate themselves to be, a muscle cell, a bone cell, a brain cell, whatever it's going to be? And so does that also mean at some point maybe we can clone a human body without a brain, without a mind, just to use for spare parts?
Mm-hmm.
Could happen. I mean, first thing you think, well, wait, could we just clone a leg if we could make the body parts, the cells? But, that would still require a whole body because you need a circulatory system and a nervous system and all the other parts that make a leg possible. But we'll see. We'll see. It is hard to say. Oh, I see Luke is in the chat.
Yes, hello, Luke.
The art expert, Luke Travers.
Yes. Oh, can I jump in real quick while
Yes,
Luke's on?
please.
So tomorrow, the Detroit Institute of Arts, art museum in Detroit, as one may guess. It's a place that
good art museum.
Very
yes.
good. Yeah, it's a particular museum that we went to. We went there with Luke Travers, who wrote the book Touching the Art, and also what is it? Stories from Paint. I'm so sorry if I'm getting this
Stories
wrong.
in Paint.
Stories in Paint. Yes.
Now, right away, you're wondering, how do I find out more about this? TouchingTheArt.com.
Yes, you can go to touchingtheart.com. Anyway, so we've been to this museum many, many times, and of course we went there with Luke a few times, I think, at least. And it's a great museum. It's really was built in the heyday of when Detroit was thriving. It's all marble everywhere, and it's really enormous, and it's really lovely. It's got a great collection of representational and inspiring artworks, dramatic artworks, good stuff. So it's actually open tomorrow. It's on a Monday. It's usually never open on a Monday. I think Mondays and Tuesdays. But for the holidays, they decided to open it up for the whole week. So I told Robert that we are going to go, and we're going to do a couple of interesting experiments. So one is it's going to be kind of like touching the art method. Hopefully you'll know what this is. So if you don't, look it up. Read Luke's book. Buy his book. And we're going to go in. I'm going to go in with some pencils and a book of blank paper, and I'm going to kind of sketch out some interesting things that I like in some of the paintings or some of the sculptures or something else entirely or whatever it may be. But I'm going to do some really, really quick and dirty sketches of things that I like, and then see how much I can do of that. And then I'm also going to find perhaps a painting or a sculpture that I can use the touching the art method and try to kind of come up with what is going on here in the scene that I'm seeing, in the still shot that I'm seeing, what came before, what came after, and kind of imagine what was happening, kind of try to understand it in terms of a story. And then I'm going to use that story or that person or some part of that artwork, and I'm going to write 4 stanzas of kind of a poem to use possibly in a song. So, yeah, we have great aspirations for tomorrow at the Detroit Institute of Arts.
It's going to be good, and it's going to be a start for next year, because one of the commitments for next year will be that I have is to start writing music again.
Yes.
We've been saying for years we need to put together an O-rock band, an objectivist rock band, and that's been done before. This is not new. Look up Stephen Shube, who you now know as one of the teachers at the Objectivist Graduate Center, but was one of the great ska musicians in his day, and that's what you see. I'm wearing the Michigan Ska Party People hat
Yeah.
here. Well, it's really just a sticker on my hat. We did go to a ska party this week. The actor Stephen Shube, was also a great ska lead vocalist, frontman. You can't just call him a vocalist. He was a frontman in the best sense of that word. Good to see Luke in the chat, though, and he does mention that the Detroit Institute of Arts is one of his favorite museums in the U.S. We've been to better museums. We've been to d'Orsay in Paris. We've been to the National Gallery. We've seen better museums, but DIA is one of the greats just for the museum itself, and many great works.
Yes.
I don't want to say, it's the best museum in the United States. It is well worth a trip to Motown to attend. Between that and the Henry Ford Museum, that's reason enough to come to Michigan.
Absolutely. Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely.
If you've never been around here, don't be afraid. Come on over anyway. No, actually,
Jim,
we're pretty darn tame around here nowadays.
Jim is giving me his usual clever pushback here. He says, no, I never click on good news stories, only the bad news ones. I try to maintain a negative outlook on life. I walk around with a black cloud over my head. My friends make fun of me, calling me Chief Black Cloud. Given my general outlook on things, I don't consider that the least bit funny. You say that, but I know half the reason why you think that's funny is because there are people, and I would even say some people within our circle who for whom that would not be much of an exaggeration. Let me just put it that way. Speaking of Jim, I'm so glad that you finally saw Dead Poets Society and that you did like it. If there's anybody out there like Jim who has not yet seen that Robin Williams classic, it's a must-see, but it's especially a must-see at this time of year. New Year's Eve is right around the corner. 2 days. New Year's Day is right around the corner. And you're going to get that damn U2 song stuck in your head. Ew. We need more hopeful New Year's Day songs.
Yeah, what's a good New Year's
not Dan Fogelberg, not
nothing from U2.
No, not the Dan Fogelberg, and not U2.
You could interpret "Beautiful Day" by U2 as a good song for like New Year's Day. Kinda.
Yeah. Not specifically that day, but you're right. It is a much more cheerful song.
Fairly positive.
Yeah, folks. Better new. Oh, yeah. See, Christopher Smith says "Brand New Day" by Sting. There you go.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, we'll put on that, and I don't know if you get any other suggestions, put them in the chat for that. I mentioned on Facebook today. Actually, I think I put it on the other socials too. Today is your second chance. A common figure of speech, I wish I had a second chance to do X. I wish I could go back in time. In fact, it's a meme that was going around again today. Tell me this. Answer me that. Riddle me this, Batman. Here's your choice. Would you rather go back in time to correct the mistakes you've made? I think one of them said go back in time 10 years to correct mistakes you've made. Or would you want $10 million? So what do you think? Go back in time 10 years to correct any mistakes that you've made?
I would go
take away the 10 years. Just make it any amount of time to correct mistakes you've made. Or would you want $10 million?
I don't trust time travel, so I'll go with the money.
See, that is almost the right answer. Because there's actually 3 answers to this question. You could go back and correct the mistakes and, stop Hitler from World War II, that kind of thing. Except we all know from time travel stories, they're kind of like the Dear Santa, Satan stories, wish fulfillment. When you get what you want, you often find out that there are bad side effects. Bad things happen that you could not have anticipated because you only know reality. You don't know that alternate universe, that metaverse where you got your wish. And
multiverse.
Yeah, the multiverse. Yeah. What do they call them? Moral hazards and administrative capture and regulatory capture and side effects. So we used to call that stuff side effects. Now we have all these different categories. You're right. Going back in time to correct your mistakes can lead to side effects you don't want. But also, if I went back in time to correct mistakes I made, even if I also tried not to change a thing that I did that led to positive results, I don't think you could pull it off. I don't think you could pull it off. Even if you try to, no, I'm not going to change anything different about the circumstances that led to my daughter being born, or that led to my career going the way it did, or the good things in your life. No, you start losing things. In fact, you couldn't pull it off. Change one little thing and you're going to start losing track of all the rest of it. And eventually, after 10 little things and 100 little things and 1,000 little things, 1,066 little things, you've created a whole different world, a whole different reality. Add to that, are you the only one who knows consciously about how things used to be before your changes? And if you don't, how will you make so? Obviously, the contradictions of time travel, but also, I don't want to screw up the good things that happened just because I want the opportunity to go back and fix the bad things. Okay, that's the first answer. You're right. You don't want that. That's the worst thing. Paulo Zeus says butterfly effect. Yeah, one thing affects everything. Butterfly effect kind of exaggerates it, chaos theory and all of that, but there is truth to it. Yes, $10 million. Okay, $10 million would be cool. But here's why that's not the correct answer either. The neat thing is that you can go back in time 10 years, or rather, you can do something just like going back in time 10 years. You can go forward in time 10 years. I always say we're all time travelers. We just happen to travel forward only and 360 seconds an hour. But we're all traveling through time all the time. And the neat thing is you can abstract it. You can say, well, 10 years from now, I will probably be in this situation or that situation. I know I'll be 10 years older, and I'll have done 10 years worth of things. Whatever that is, whatever it's going to add up to, I can make plans, and most of that will happen. But also there will be some random things, some things I can't plan on with friends and family, maybe my own health. But I can imagine 10 years from now. And 10 years from now, well, let's apply this to you. 10 years from now, what will you wish you had done in the previous 10 years? I mean, right now, December 29, 2024, you can think back 10 years and say, oh yeah, in the last 10 years, I did that one thing that kind of came out of a moment of weakness, and I wish I hadn't done that. And I did this other thing where I really did my best, but it didn't turn out. I wish I could change that. And there was this, my father got cancer, and I wish if I'd known ahead of time, I could have warned him and he would have got better treatment. You can look back the last 10 years and say, what do I wish I had done differently? Or you can look forward 10 years and say, what will I have wished I had done? Because the neat thing is that guy, that gal, on December 29th, 2034, you actually get to do this. You get to say, that guy, I'm going to give him everything that he needs for a great 2034. I do get to look back in time by looking forward to the future. This is the kind of wish fulfillment I can get behind. This is the kind of wish fulfillment that's not going to lead you, for example, to be condemned to the fires of hell forever because you couldn't foresee the side effects of the things that you wished for. To steal the plot of several movies involving gods and devils and things. Today is your second chance to make the next thing that happens to you amazing.
Well, you know what really helps me with the idea of, looking into the future, like you said, asking yourself, what would I regret in the future if I don't make it happen, and all of that. I forget exactly how you put it, but
yes, what will I have wished? What will I wish things had happened? See, now I just lost that second person perfect future
so perfect.
participle. Yes.
It was such a perfect
In
participle.
10 years, what will I have wished? Isn't that
Anyway,
weird?
I think we all get it.
Somebody will write it in the chat. What did he say?
But looking back, so this is one of the things I've been doing, and actually I'm kind of
Yes.
I'm kind of cheating right now and kind of doing my homework while we're on live. So I'm looking at my photos, my iCloud photos, and I'm looking at my calendar and things like that, and putting together. So what I did was I put a Word document together, and I wrote in the words January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. And for each of those headers, I'm putting in specific dates that something really cool happened, or it was a milestone, or perhaps it was a marker for something that didn't really quite go well, or whatever it may be. And I'm taking stock, I'm taking inventory about what happened all this past year, and that really helps me to kind of understand myself and my planning abilities, and what method did I use to actually make any of this happen, especially the really, really excellent stuff, which a lot happened this year. That was pretty darn awesome. So yeah, that really helps me, and it gives me a reality basis. It makes it psychologically visible, you could say, or psychologically concrete, that this is not just some sort of like, my brain isn't made of soup feeling. It actually gives me something to hang on to and say, oh, wait a minute, I did make this happen, and these are things that I made happen with concrete steps, and how amazing is that? And I can do it again. So yeah, that's really fun. You should do it. I recommend it.
Yes. They're just catching up here in the chat here. It seems like most of the people in the chat have the right idea. First of all, the metaphysical idea that time is not a dimension. I mean, it's useful mathematically to think of it that way, but it's not a dimension. You can't move back and forth in it. As folks are saying, it is unidirectional. Although Jason Adams says, unless you're bi-directional. No, we are not bichronistic or anachronistic. No, we are unichronistic. Yes.
Yeah, I'd say this. Time is not a place. Those concepts are mutually exclusive.
Yes.
It's not a place. It's not a tunnel to go down. It's not a water slide to go down on a tube.
Yeah.
No.
Exactly. Apollo Zeus mentions the arrow of time. Yes, it is an arrow of time. It's not a time line in the sense of a number line and go in either direction.
Yeah.
Again, there's value mathematically for being able to understand time as on a scale, but that doesn't imply you can move in both directions.
I don't know. If there was ever an instance of time travel, it would most certainly happen on a really long and large and high up water slide somewhere. That'd be pretty cool.
You start messing with cause and effect, though, you're going to get a bad movie plot. And Barrister Humphreys, the UK's favorite attorney, or at least the Ayn Rand Center UK's favorite attorney, says TV show The Flash repeatedly warns against messing with the timeline, not least when the protagonist goes back and prevents his own mother's murder, but he returns to a totally messed up modern day. Yeah, time travel in movies, stories, television series, it can be handled well or it can be handled poorly, but taken too seriously, it always leads to contradictions because the concept doesn't actually make sense. Causality is in one direction. Time itself isn't even a dimension. You can't go back in time. That's like, well, it's not like anything because it can't actually happen. Yeah, as Christopher Smith says, it just makes no goddamn sense. Yes, that's the correct philosophic answer. Incidentally, speaking of philosophic answers, I've told you folks before, to follow the writer Jim Ashley on Facebook. He mentions in the chat he's writing an essay based on the film Dead Poets Society. He's written an essay recently about the best New Year's resolution is. Well, you'll have to read it, but do follow Jim Ashley on Facebook, and you can read that even if you're not already in his friends list, because it is posted public. So you should give that a read, and he's right. It's a good perspective to have as you're figuring out your New Year's resolutions. And we had that discussion again recently. Should we have New Year's resolutions? And we'll do this real quick. Should you have some New Year's resolutions? And the spoiler alert is yes.
Yes.
Unless you shouldn't. And the reason it comes up is there's a certain perspective that if there's something you need to change, some aspect of your life, some aspect of your character, one of your habits, whatever it is, well, as soon as you figure out you should change it, if it's advisable to change, if it's a good thing to change, if it's something that you want, if it's better than what you're doing, why would you wait until a day on a calendar to make that change? No, as soon as you realize, oh wait, this isn't good for me, wouldn't you say, oh, I'll stop doing that? Or as soon as you realize, I need to start working toward this thing that I want, well, why wouldn't you start working toward it right away? It'll be that much sooner you'll achieve it. When you put it that way, it's pretty hard to argue for New Year's resolutions. But I've made the point before, and I'll make it real quick right now. There's only so much you can do all at one time. There's only so much you can do in a day. And because you are a human being, because you function conceptually, you need to be able to conceptually manage the way in which you handle long-term projects. If it's the kind of thing that doesn't need a rough draft, and a first and a second draft, and then a final version. In other words, if it's not a project that you have to write down, then by all means go ahead and start working on it right away. But most of the things that qualify as resolutions, it's precisely because we need to write them down and take a series of actions to make them happen. In other words, they are conceptual or require conceptual understanding that we do align them with that amazing thing that allows us to handle things more complex than what we can in the moment, and that is our calendar. There's an old quip, time is so that everything doesn't happen all at once. There's a different understanding of time for you. And it's just, if there are 10 things I need to change about my life, I just can't. It's not that I wouldn't be willing to try to do all 10 of them at the same time. I literally can't. I cannot do that. I cannot juggle all of those things because they are going to require thought before action. And not simple thought, not, I should start eating right. No, it's going to require, I'm going to have to change the way in which I'm stocking produce and change the way, the things that I'm buying at the grocery store, but also what do I do when I get them home? I'm buying things that I need because they're nutritious, but they only last for a few days, and 100 other things besides that to say, I got to work on my diet and nutrition. It'd be easy to say, well, but couldn't you just start by saying I'm not going to eat fast food anymore? I'm not going to eat high-carb, low-nutrient density foods. But then also, if I do that, it's going to change, it's going to change everything. So because of the human need to handle things rationally, and that means conceptually, I'm a big fan of resolutions, a big fan of New Year's resolutions. And I have found them useful and often effective.
It's really an interesting measure of time that I just thought of.
What's that?
And I've never really thought of it this before. So it might be kind of trippy, man.
Good.
So
Trippy
it might
is good.
blow your mind. All right. So I have a pretty fast heart rate. It's about 80 beats per minute. And I just did a calculation. If it's 80 beats per minute and there's 60 minutes in an hour, that's 4,800 beats of my heart in an hour. Isn't that crazy?
kind of crazy.
And you multiply that by 24 in a day, and that's over 115,000 beats in a day of my heartbeat. So my heartbeat is kind of marking time.
Yes.
It is marking time. And every little moment of action that my sweet little cute little heart is going blump. It's pretty amazing. And
yes.
That's if you think of that, it's not there's a real reality basis to it. Of course, there's obviously a real reality basis in terms of the sun rising and setting, of course. But on a more personal level, you could say that is it. So if you're around, so everyone has around more or less 100,000 heartbeats in a day.
Yes.
And so I need to think of it in those terms a little bit better. And that might actually also convince me to eat a little bit better and stay away from the sugar like I've been going gangbusters on lately with all the chocolate. Yeah. Okay, what you got?
Well,
Robert just made a piece of art.
I have, yeah. There we go. Now, this is my Post-it notepad, and there you go. This is useful to do every now and then. I've shown one of these once before over the course of the years.
I know what this is.
But there you go. It's a grid, a little paper graph grid of 8 by 10. 8 by 10 squares. And what's interesting to do with a graph like that, and I've done this in color and I've done it with categories and done it different ways before. But what's interesting is draw this graph.
We're gonna hear a lot of grift in the year 2024.
Yeah, draw this graph.
To be assured.
To be assured, you draw a graph. And then what I want you to do is X out 1 square for every year that you have lived so far. That might sound silly, or it might sound kind of pessimistic, depending. But it is interesting because then you get to ask yourself, oh my gosh, all those years have already passed. What did I get out of those years? Was it worth it? The first answer should be yes, but also, we'll often feel a certain longing like, well, I kind of wish I'd gotten more. Some people will be overwhelmed by that feeling of wishing they'd gotten more, and what I want to encourage is that you don't do that, or rather that you reconsider. You have done amazing things in all of the years that you've been alive, and you've gone through all sorts of stuff. If it was hard times, well, you survived it. You got through. There may be regrets. I'm not saying to be happy about the difficult times, but you got through it. And there were good times, and there are things that you got out of that too. But whatever it is, if you draw 80 squares, you might live to be 80, you might not live to be 80, you might live to be 100. You might live to be 100 years old like Jimmy Carter, President of the United States, who sadly died today. But you might live to be 100. You could draw 100 squares if you are that optimistic. But either way, the next step is look at the blank squares and say, okay, well, I've probably got, if I live, say, to be 80, I've got 19 years left. Wow, that's not a lot. What do I want to do with those years? Good question to ask right around the lead up to New Year's Day.
Yes.
So I'm asking myself that question. Now, in my family, the folks who maintain their health well were relatively long-lived. Probably going to live longer than 80, especially because, given enough years of science and technology and those 1,066 things that human progress shared with us, probably get extended out a little bit more. Probably be more like Dick Van Dyke, who is still alive in his late 90s, or Jimmy Carter, who made it to 100 and died today. Either way, it makes me think, well, hell yeah, I'm going to do some New Year's resolutions. I'm going to do some resolutions whether it's New Year's or not. And that is what I want for you. Memento mori.
Yeah. Remember, you're going to be dead.
Well, that is what memento mori means, is remember that you someday...
You're going back to the state of existence you were at a year before you were born.
Yep.
Whee!
Yeah.
So one thing I want to do, this is another thing. So I do recommend making a list of all 12 months, filling that in with the most interesting things or most important things or the worst things or whatever it may be. Put something to contemplate in those months that happen, the last 12 months of your life, and contemplate on it, introspect on it, of course. The other thing was, I'm making a list of my friends.
Other people, the second highest value in the world.
And the header is friends and their virtues, or why I like them.
That's a healthy attitude, because I know a lot of people who like their friends not for their virtues, but for their vices.
Oh, that's this is
the guy who takes me out and parties with me, and we do the things I wouldn't do any other time.
No, but so I thought about this, and I thought, there have been moments on Facebook where I feel a little awkward because I really somebody really, really impresses me, and this happens a lot to my friends, where somebody really impresses me, or somebody does something so very nice, or I really like something, and I really think about it, and then I want to write on Facebook, hey, so and so, I really, really love, admire you because of this, that, and the other thing, and this, that. And I think, oh my gosh, well, if I do that, will my other friends expect me to do the same? Am I setting myself up for unrealistic expectations, or should I just go ahead and should I do it? Let me know in the chat if that is something you would find awkward if your friend did with another friend and not you, or something like that. Would you feel that that's kind of strange or weird, or maybe disheartening, or I don't know. I really think, you really shouldn't be comparing yourselves to other people, and that shouldn't really matter and everything like that. But I try to err on the side of courtesy, and so I'm not entirely sure if I should be doing that. But one thing I can do is I can start telling my friends exactly, what it is I really, really like about them, and write it down and send it to them, in Messenger, in a text or whatever, or tell it to their faces, or write it down on a sheet of paper. I actually did this with my friend Lily. She, it's a long story, but I was one of her bridesmaids, and I went ahead and, because I knew that there were going to be speeches going on, but I decided not to write a speech, even though I really, really wanted to, and I probably should have. But I wrote a speech after the fact, and I gave it to her. And I told it directly to her face about why I really value our friendship. And this was, right after she was married. So, I guess you don't really have to wait for a wedding to give a speech and tell your friend or your family or loved ones why you really value them. I think you should do it now. So I'm making a little list, and and I'm thinking about that. What can I write, even if it's just for myself? And also, of course, look to people that you want to get to know in the next year. Reach out to new people. Set up a Zoom call if you're not in the same town. Get to know people a little bit more, and we've done that a little bit this year, but not as much as we have in the past with a pandemic. Yeah, so there you are.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just looking in the chat here, and yes, Tom Harrison says Vera Lynn lived to be 103, which answers Roger Waters' question. Does anybody here remember Vera Lynn? Which only the people who know the Pink Floyd album The Wall will get that reference. Stephen Katz wants to know, did you see Baby Girl? The answer is no. And did you ever see a car with Christmas lights before? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
We saw a couple of them in downtown Detroit.
A few times this year. It was really thrilling. I really love that.
Yes, even though one of our friends quickly pointed out, that's not legal. You can't do that. Well, okay.
Let them get pulled over on Christmas time. Let them try. Come and get me.
Really, really. Try me. Of course, we haven't done that. We've only seen that. So, December 29, December 30, December 31. That gives you, well, in the time zone I'm in, that gives you exactly 53 hours to enjoy the rest of 2024. To go out in style. To really enjoy, and whether that means really just relaxing and cocooning and really before you get back into the hard work that comes after the new year, or that means going out and partying it up, party high all the time. Wrap up this year the way you want, and the way that you want. And my point isn't that you should do this or you should do that, but that whatever you do, you should do it intentionally. Let's wrap this year up in style the way we want it to be. Now, Amy, we were kind of undecided about New Year's Eve. We hadn't made plans this year.
Yeah,
sometimes you'll buy tickets ahead of time. You go to an event because otherwise everyone gets sold out. We did talk about staying in and maybe doing a podcast.
Maybe, but I don't know.
So I'm curious, folks, for those of you who don't have big plans for New Year's Eve, or maybe even if you do, if we were online during New Year's Eve, would you be interested in hanging out?
Well,
in the chat?
This would be after you're on Brooks'
Well, this would be New Year's Eve. Yeah, Yaron Brook's New Year's Eve. I've told you all, you've got to listen to Yaron Brook on New Year's Eve. He's doing his end of the year, so he's going to recap the year, he's going to do his big fundraiser. He's trying to raise $15,000. But to pick on Yaron just a little bit, that's not New Year's Eve. That's December 31st. New Year's Eve means evening. New Year's Eve means at least hitting midnight in some time. Well, actually, if he goes late enough in the afternoon, it will be midnight somewhere in the world. Maybe, in China or India or Japan. So, yeah, I guess that does count. But for us, it would be, closer to New Year's Eve, midnight. I don't know if it would exactly be at midnight Eastern Standard Time, but point is later, well after Yaron's show that afternoon. If any of you are planning on being in on New Year's Eve, or being somewhere where you could watch or hear us on a computer or cell phone, would you be interested in that? Let us know as we are making our final decisions about what we're going to do New Year's Eve.
Well, we could start out at 11 p.m. Eastern Time and do an hour.
Yeah.
We could.
And when they drop the ball in New York City, we could all celebrate together.
But I don't know.
Curious to know.
We'll see. I mean, I was actually thinking about using up some of the time that evening on New Year's Eve to do karaoke and just sing. And just sing the loudest that I can possibly sing in the strangest songs I could think of. That's kind of what I want. Whether that's somewhere, I mean, if we stay inside, then we can. I've got free reign for everything. But if we go out somewhere to do karaoke, then you have to wait in line for people.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've run long enough. I'm not going to get too much into what your 2025 should look like. But if you want some great advice on how to put it together in a way that will be compelling for you, rewatch our Recipes and Scripts episode on Life on Earth on the Ayn Rand Center UK channel, Recipes and Scripts. It will give you just about everything you need to put together the script and the recipes that you need to make that happen. I always say just about everything you experience in life has a recipe. The recipe for disappointment, for example. Do you know what the recipe for disappointment is? I'll give you that real quick. The recipe for disappointment, if you ever want to experience a disappointment, if you ever want to be really disappointed, if you really want that, all you have to do is this. Here's the recipe. Decide in advance, and you've got to do it ahead of time, exactly, in every detail, how an event needs to turn out, or what result you're going to get, how it's got to be, how everybody around you is going to perform, or how they're going to feel about it, exactly what it's got to look like, when it's got to happen. If you ever want to be disappointed, there's a recipe for that. There's a script to follow. And again, the most important ingredient is you got to decide every detail, but in advance. Mm-hmm. And I always love giving a recipe. I can give you a recipe for anger. I can give you a recipe for all sorts of negative things because the recipes for those are obvious. It turns out there's also recipes for positive things in your life. There are scripts to follow that will always give you the result. A prescription for joy, a prescription for excitement, a prescription for energy, a prescription for calm. There are recipes for these things. And in that Recipes and Scripts episode, we give you recipes for several of those things. I like the recipe for calm in particular. Because that one involves getting you excited, or at least alert, raising your level of intensity and awareness, and then bringing you back down. You can't go from blah or anxiety or concern or frustration to calm. No, what you've got to do is you got to bring it up a notch or 2 or 3 or 5 and then bring it back down. Best way to get calm in your life. Watch that episode, Recipes and Scripts, Life on Earth with Robert and Amy
All right,
Nasir.
I think I'll do that. Can I say one last thing?
Yes.
I wrote an interesting post recently. So there are people who exist in the world. Sometimes I forget they're there. God. Sorry. People who think in terms of living the best thing that you can do in life, other than being altruistic and random acts of kindness, whatever it may be, is the idea of mitigating suffering. And there's a package deal going on there. There's a philosophical viewpoint that basically says that life is suffering, you should expect suffering, and the best thing you can do for another person or to yourself is to try to avoid the pain, try to avoid the disvalues, avoid the suffering, mitigate it. And of course that presupposes the idea that there is no real happiness in life. There's really no, reaching a goal or being proud of yourself or time to celebrate. It's just about, life is screwed up, death and taxes, and everybody has some sort of, horrible problem that they're dealing with, and there's no room for values. Sometimes I get reminded there are people who think this way. So I wrote, this is not the point of life. And so I went ahead and I said, if you are suffering, especially through no fault of your own, by all means, find ways to make it easier for yourself. Make a plan. Get it done. One step at a time, But the best way to make it easier for yourself is to focus on your values. Focus on the things that make you happy, that you already have, that you've already attained. And keep pursuing more. Of course, doing a year's worth of inventory of what happened the last year will help you understand how you got it in the first place. Of course, don't focus on your suffering. Go out and get them and assume positive intent of yourself. Assume positive intent of others and the world. And give yourself permission. The world is open to you. And I came up and I brought up 2 really short and sweet Ayn Rand quotes. Quote, happiness is the greatest agent of purification. I think that was brought up with regard to Henry Reardon doing his first pour of Reardon metal and creating the chain bracelet that he was going to give to his wife, who he unfortunately was thinking in the abstract. But the whole idea of, this great accomplishment that 10 years of research that he went through, culminating in success in a harder and cheaper and lightweight alloy that he created with Reardon metal. And the second quote is, of course, the world you desire can be won. It exists. It is real. It is possible. It is yours. And I can't emphasize that enough. Looking back at what may have happened the last year of this past year, take an inventory. See if you can find those gems that actually happened and really focus on those. I think of those in terms of, so there's a concept in Harry Potter that J.K. Rowling created the concept is a spell called the Patronus charm. And it's the idea that you're going to think of something extremely happy in your life, and that you're going to create a spell to repel, baddie dementors who are coming at you. But I think of, what are my Patronuses? Think of what are your Patronuses that have happened to you, happy memories this past year that you can use as a source of strength to keep going and to not focus on suffering. I mean, you can do that, and you can work with it, of course, work within it, but figure out what you want and dare yourself to be happy, to find that joy in life.
Yes. So Equal to Reality just entered the chat. He's late, but says it'll be nice to see you in the new year. We are looking forward to the new year, too. Thank you. Stephen asked, do you guys read P.Z. Myers? I'm about to finish his book, The Happy Atheist. I haven't followed P.Z. Myers in years, and the write-up on that book made me uninterested in reading it. I'm curious what you think of it. It seems like it's like a lot of books these days. It's a collection of prior writings, and it's mostly scathing attacks on religion. I'm all for scathing attacks on religion. It just didn't sound very fun. And if I see a book called The Happy Atheist, I would hope the emphasis would be on the positive and not on what's wrong with religion. But let's see. Let me look on Amazon here. On his popular science blog for Jude Law, P.Z. Myers has entertained millions with his infectious love of evolutionary science and his equally infectious disdain for creationism, biblical literalism, intelligent design theory, and other products of godly illogic. This funny and fearless book collects and expands on some of his most popular writings, giving the religious fanaticism of our times the gleeful disrespect it deserves. See, and it goes on in exactly this manner, gleeful disrespect. I totally understand the disrespect. I don't understand the gleeful disrespect. It's too much focus on the negative. Too much focus on, if that's your thing, more power to you. It sounds like it could be funny, but not fun.
I mean, when I think of gleeful disrespect, I think of MAGA. Think of, sticking it to the libs and all that. It's like, I don't think that's very gleeful. Just don't.
See, Tom has a strange line here. He says, luck is the residue of design.
I can get behind that.
I don't know. I have two opposite quotes about luck, or two opposite thoughts about luck.
Yeah, what do you got?
The first one, and I don't know if either of these is original with me, it's the old one, the classic. A lot of people, they assume that Will Rogers said it, just Abraham Lincoln said it. Who knows who actually said it? The quote inspector site will probably say, no, it was actually in some small newspaper article written by this random person you've never heard of. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. When you're well prepared and opportunity comes along and you do well, people call it luck. So luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Mm-hmm. And the other one that I really like, and it's almost the opposite, but the two actually go together, is luck is for the ill-prepared. Yeah. In other words, you're hoping that things will work out because you didn't really prepare the way you should have. So I like both of those. They sound like a contradiction, but properly understood, they go together.
Yeah, there's another one by Benjamin Franklin, which is, diligence is the mother of good luck. I can get behind that.
Yeah. Well, another one that's also been attributed to Will whoever, is, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yeah. You know what luck actually is?
What is luck actually?
Luck actually is.
Luck Actually, wasn't that a movie?
That was Love Actually, but luck. What luck actually is the benevolence you have towards yourself in being diligent, in persevering, in going out there and seeking opportunities. It's when you say yes, Amy, or yes, so and so, yes, me. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to find opportunities, or try to find the best of other people, or try to find the best of myself, or try to find the best of some kind of career move or learning a new skill or whatever it may be. I'm going to grow as a person in whatever way I want, and I'm going to, in other words, you're seeing yourself as some, not just efficacious, and not just beneficial to yourself in terms of taking the right actions. It's having a vision of yourself, of who you are in your own mind's eye, of somebody who is capable and always looking for the good in yourself. I guess that's the best way. That's what luck really is. And if you keep that up, you're going to find yourself in situations that you have prepared for, because you're going to find values to pursue, values to grow with, and other people to help grow your values.
I'd be interested to see you write that up. That would make a good post.
Me too. I'm just riffing.
Yeah, I would be interested to see you write that up, because I think you're making a point, but I'd love to see it written.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Jeff Bannister's in the chat and is saying, "Have a great New Year to everyone."
Aww,
thank you for that.
Jeff.
Let's see. Somebody asked, I think Apollo Zeus asked earlier, when is the Yarn Brook episode going to be on? It's 1 p.m. on New Year's Eve.
Eastern time.
So 42 hours away. Crazy. How is this all coming up so soon? Folks, whatever fun you wanted to have, whatever values you wanted to achieve, you got a few hours left to get them in. No, I'm not talking about big projects. Maybe a little too late for that.
You've got a few hours.
But the hours you've got left in this fine year, make them the best that you can. How soon is now? Yes, absolutely. Folks, thank you for joining us throughout this year. It has been a good year. I didn't do one last year. I actually skipped it. On the socials and maybe on Substack, depending on how it turns out, I will be doing an end-of-the-year wrap-up, similar to what Yaron will be doing, but obviously from a different perspective. Because, as Amy suggests in talking about luck, values are primary. Something that I don't think enough other people talk about besides us. Values are primary. You are here for your values.
Yes.
There are threats, there are things to fight, and there are difficulties, challenges that aren't even threats, but just hard stuff in life. You got to pay your dues. But you are here to live a life. You are here to enjoy values, including that second highest of all values, other people. That's what we are here for. I hope you can look back on 2024 and say, that was a year worth living. That was a good one. Wasn't perfect. Well, maybe it was. But there was good stuff in there. That was a good year. 2025 is going to be great.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a cool number.
So whether we go live and have a full podcast the day after tomorrow, or just do a Facebook Live and see some of you on the socials, thank you for joining us. We will look forward to that. And that's it. That's all I've got. With that said, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for supporting us. Yeah. How do you support us? You like the show. You share the show. You didn't click like? You haven't shared the show yet? We'll do that thing.
I just clicked the like button.
You hadn't liked us yet? If you really want to support the show even more than that, even in a bigger, bolder way, go to robertnasir.com, go to the very bottom of the page and click that link to Patreon. You could be a monthly subscriber for the price of a cup of coffee. For the price of one of these, I think this is the last of my Merry Christmas cups.
Aww.
For the price of a cup of coffee, a couple dollars a month, or more if you like, you can support this show. If you want to do a one-time contribution, a little gift for Christmas, use the PayPal link, and that will let you make a single one-time contribution to what we do. And either way, whether you're a contributor or just sharing this opportunity with us in the chat, thank you. Thank you for being here. Oh, and if you're listening after the fact, we are, after all, on all of the podcast platforms, at least all the ones I've ever heard of. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making it worth it to us to have these discussions with you. 2025, lots of things planned. I'm not going to get into the details because we're still planning. Who knows exactly how it's going to turn out yet? Well, we kind of do, but we will get there. We hope you will join. We know you will join us. You will be on that journey with us, and that is why we thank you. That is why we appreciate you. That is why we wish you every success that you so richly deserve. And it's why we're sending your way, last time in 2024, unless we catch you on New Year's Eve,